Hello everyone and welcome to the start of our F1 2002 career mode, where, as you will have seen in the intro, we have joined Ferrari. Yes, it was quite a crazy winter break. If you missed out on the video that went live last week from Brazil, I would highly recommend going back and checking out. We had the season finale of 2001, myself versus Jacques Villeneuve, McLaren versus Williams. Overall, it's safe to say 2001 was a pretty good season. I certainly thought so. We went to Ron Dennis at the end of the year, requested a fairly sensible salary, I thought, and he turned around and went, no. Clearly, the performances that David Coulthard had put in right at the end of last season, McLaren felt he was still the driver they wanted to focus on in the future, and ultimately, I'm not going to settle for number 2 status, especially being the reigning world champion. So just like Damon Hill winning the world title with Williams in 1996 and immediately leaving, or obviously Michael Schumacher doing the same in 1995 from Benetton to Ferrari, I'm going to become the 3rd driver in recent times to win a world championship and immediately leave that team. And of course, hindsight is a beautiful thing, but the real-life F2002 Ferrari was an absolute beast as well. Michael Schumacher got a podium in every single race of the 2002 season. Let's see if he can do the same inside this series then. But taking a look then at our driver lineups, Williams have kept their lineup exactly the same. Villeneuve and Heinz-Alfredson as we head into 2002. Of course, they won the Constructors last year. Why would they feel need to change? Obviously, we have gone to Ferrari alongside the Michael. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how 2 world champions stack up against each other over the course of the campaign. McLaren, obviously, they've kept David Coulthard, and he's joined by Marc Genet, ready for the new season. So that's going to be a very, very interesting lineup as we head into 2002. Jaguar have finally changed their lineup inside this game. Sadly, Jan Magnussen is gone, but he has been replaced by Mark Webber, who joins Rubens Barrichello over there. Ralf Schumacher has a new teammate in Takuma Sato over at Jordan. Renault now, of course, have taken over from the Benetton team. They have Jenson Button and Alexander Wurz with the organisation. Sauber, interestingly, have signed the first female driver since the 1970s. Yes, Danica Patrick. We love to hate on her in real life. I'm sure I'm going to be throwing the same kind of beef her way as we head into the season. But she is going to be racing it down at Sauber alongside Jarno Trulli there. BAR have got 2 new drivers in Zolt Baumgartner and Anthony Davidson as we head into the new year. Kimi Räikkönen has gone to Minardi alongside Fernando Alonso, and Arrows have been bought out by Toyota. Obviously, they've kept Juan Pablo Montoya inside the team, but then a big money signing in Giancarlo Fisichella as well then. So, yeah, plenty of movement as we head into the new year. Of course, as always, we do like to change the calendar up just a little bit as well. We kickstart the year, as we have to, in Albert Park before we return straight to Europe for the Dutch Grand Prix, Barcelona, Monaco, and then we head for the inaugural Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku before we head across to Montreal, back to the French Grand Prix, Austria, Silverstone, Hungary, Belgium, Italy, and then the flyaway season begins with the Singapore Grand Prix, followed up by Japan, the USA, and of course the season finale out in Brazil. It's going to be an interesting season. I'm really looking forward to it. Get yourself subscribed if you're new around here, and I guess let's head into qualifying then, ready for the first race of 2002. Well, let's head in then, ready for our first ever qualifying lap in the Ferrari F2002. I must admit, I'm a little bit scared for this season. It was a big risk coming to the team, obviously, that struggled so much throughout 2001. You know, we were in talks with Williams as well about potentially replacing Frentzen and, you know, kind of creating a Williams super team over the winter break. But, yeah, obviously didn't really fancy going up alongside Jacques Villeneuve with all the beef I've had with him in previous years. But Michael Schumacher then immediately back on the pace. Of course, Ferrari did get that 1 win last season out in Singapore, so it wasn't, you know, completely a write-off of a campaign, but yes, certainly not what the Ferrari team would have wanted there. And if we can come back this year and absolutely nail the regs immediately, genuinely going into it when I sign with a new team, I've got no idea how good their performance is going to be early on. So, you know, it is genuinely a gamble when we move to a new team inside this mod. But making our way then down in towards the final couple of corners. Car feeling fairly agile. Definitely hasn't quite got the same front end as the McLaren had, but feels pretty good for the most part there, and definitely has a bit more straight line speed as well. Just struggling a bit with that understeer through the final corner. It is going to be Frentzen that takes the first pole position of the year. I believe we line up 7th. Well, there we go then to kickstart 2002. Williams, they've maintained, you know, the status quo being the fastest team on the grid there with a front row lockout, but Ferrari are back. Michael Schumacher lines up less than 2 tenths away from the pole. McLaren's tucking just behind him there. For us to be 7th, you know, a new team, everything like that. Not quite where I would have wanted to be, but it's not the end of the world there, as Mark Webber on debut qualifies just behind his teammate, Danica Patrick as well, will line up 11th on the grid, ready for the opening race of the year. Toyota, they will be a bit gutted to be down in P15 and P16. They had a big budget as we head into the new season, and Jordan as well. You know, we spoke about it in 2001. Is that team's pace? You know, are the resources just starting to fall away from them?
Formula One on ITV in association with Texaco.
No more testing, no more practice. This is the real deal. And it's make or break here at Albert Park, home of the Australian Grand Prix since 1996. And home to round 1 of this year's Formula One World Championship. Just south of Melbourne's downtown business centre is the one and only Albert Park circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy circuit with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake and a couple of good passing opportunities here as well, thanks in part to the DRS zones into turns 1, 3 and 13. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Anthony Davidson is with me today as we get another year of Formula One underway.
We're into those tense few minutes before the first race then. Everyone's a little bit nervous about reliability. They haven't been running in the hot, turbulent wake of other cars in practice, and they've not been pushing at 100% for long durations. Let's hope no one has to deal with any nasty surprises.
Well, here we are then down on the grid, ready for the opening race of the 2002 season. And I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous for this, but hopefully we can kickstart a successful campaign with Ferrari as well. And I think the good news, there's no rain. I think the last 2 Australian Grand Prix we've had have both been rain affected, which have ultimately just caused chaos here. So hopefully this weekend we can be a little bit more back to normal. Of course, not too sure how fuel efficient the Ferrari is going to be, so I'm going to give ourselves a few extra laps in the tank just in case as well there. But I think the red suits me in the car as well. So yeah, Schumacher starting a little bit higher up. Can he get a podium just like he did, obviously, IRL in every race throughout this campaign? It is 5 red lights on the grid for the Australian Grand Prix. And the 2002 Formula One season is go there and, well, we're not going anywhere on the run down towards turn 1. Bogging down horrendously on the way in. Rubens Barrichello, Mark Webber. Whoa! Where did Jenson Button come from in all of that? Just out of nowhere. What on earth was that? We're riding on board then with Jenson Button in towards turn 1. I mean, this was just a jump scare. I mean, look how... I mean, he was trying to avoid, I think, the BAR initially, and then the Sauber car, but... I mean, that was just so optimistic, it's unbelievable. And already we got 2 cars out. Luckily, I was not one of them. Well, I'm sure the hometown supporters will be gutted that Mark Webber won't see the checkered flag. I mean, he won't even see turn 2. in his first ever Formula 1 race there, and after a decent qualifying session, that's a really, really disappointing end to the afternoon for him. Because obviously we ended up right at the rear of the field, I'm going to take the gamble. I'm going to try and pit to go onto the hards to see how far we can take them in this GP. We've basically got nothing to lose early on in this race. I mean, just wrong place, wrong time down at turn 1. I guess we're going to have to try and make some overtakes today. Safety car coming in then at the end of lap 3. I believe it is still both Williams at the front of the order there. I think it's Frentzen that still leads the way ahead of his teammate Jacques Villeneuve. If he could start the season strong, that would be really, really important for him and the Williams team. And anyway, trying to put the power down then through these final couple of corners. We need to obviously try and make some moves pretty quickly here for the restart. And first one then is going to be the Minardi of Fernando Alonso. Let's see. I mean, we've definitely got straight line speed on him down in towards turn 1. He's going to try and outbrake us, though, into the corner there. Very, very optimistic into the apex. Luckily, we'll read that on the exit of the turn there and move our way back round him and up into P17. Toyota as well, they'll be pretty disappointed with a lack of pace in that car. A huge development budget has gone in for the start of 2002, and you know, the board back in Japan, they will want to see a return on investment over the course of the year. Giancarlo Fisichella, it's not a bad name in this sport right now, but yeah, down in P16, and hopefully I'm going to relegate it to P17 pretty soon as we try. Oh, that was a bit aggressive. We'll get the car slowed down, though. Keep it between the white lines. I guess that's a move. And Kimi Räikkönen then in the other Minardi. It is so nice to have a car that is so ridiculously fast in a straight line. As around the outside of the flying fin we will go. The only remaining fin, of course, now inside this series. But we'll make the move happen. We go up into P15 here. This is the great thing about these old cars, where they were so light. You can afford to be quite aggressive with your overtaking manoeuvres. You can brake so late into the corners. Ralf Schumacher then, maybe it's been a bit of a mistake sticking by Jordan as we move into 2002. They're a team that showed so much promise in the last couple of years, but yeah, early on, that car was really not working. Of course, we all know IRL, that this was already kind of the beginning of the end for the Jordan Formula 1 team, but again, hindsight is a beautiful, beautiful thing. The joy of having a car with so much power and straight line speed anyways. In fact, obviously now, you can basically just make moves anywhere, and having a car that's great through the corners, of course, is fantastic and allows you to close up on other cars, but yeah, this thing at the moment feels like a very, very decent little all-rounder. I would say, upgrade-wise, emphasis should probably be on the aero. Definitely understeers a bit more than the McLaren that we had last season. And I'm sure by saying that, Enzo is rolling in his grave. But Frentzen, yeah, continuing to set new fastest laps at the front of the order. We have got to remember, though, we are overtaking the slowest cars on the grid, as Juan Pablo Montoya just in front of us now in that second of the Toyotas. Could this be a long-term, you know, big play by the Colombian? Effectively, obviously, Toyota buying out that Arrows team. They've kept his contract in place, though, ready for 2002. I mean, imagine Montoya in a Toyota IRL. That would be a clash of culture like we've never seen before. I know I'm going to get asked about it. I apologise for the liveries on the Renaults and the Saubers being all a little bit mixed up, and kind of, I think they look a bit oddly kind of interesting. But yeah, they definitely obviously don't look like the real-life cars. Unfortunately, it's just one of the limitations of this mod, that if they looked normal for some reason, the game would just crash frequently. So I've had to lower their graphics. You can kind of see what it's meant to look like. But yeah, as we try and have a look around the outside of our sole remaining Renault in this Grand Prix, yeah, I think it is just the Renaults and the Saubers that look like it. But still a bit of a pain there as we close up then. Danica Patrick in a very first Formula 1 Grand Prix running up inside the top 10 right now. Hopefully we are about to relegate her, though, out of those positions. Of course, some of you might think it's a very odd move, but she was genuinely linked to Jaguar, I believe, for 2003, back when Bobby Rahal was working with the team and she was part of his academy program. So whether she would have necessarily made it to a Formula 1 kind of race seat, she could have very... You know, it was a very good chance she would have been like a reserve driver or a test driver or something. Well, BAR then, 2000 we joined the team, and they really did put all of their effort into that car, you know, try and give us that shot at a World Drivers' Championship. Obviously didn't come off. We obviously left the team for 2001, and it was quite clear that they had no development budget ready for the 2001 season. But luckily they kind of, it seemed like very early on accepted that, knew that 2001 was going to be a tough year, and obviously kind of gambled on 2002 being a bit of a resurgence there, and so far looking very, very good for them. Anthony Davidson running comfortably up in, I believe, 6th place still, and Zolt Baumgartner as well. 2 rookies, let's not forget, both running up in the points early on in this GP. It would be nice to see BAR back fighting again. Jarno Trulli up next, and of course Sauber still powered by Ferrari engines, and this was back in the day when, yeah, I'm going to say Ferrari used to swing their weight around, or just a little bit more. Make a tiny bit of contact there with him. We've just lost the end plate on the cars. I thought he might just be letting us by, but apparently not. And again, Sauber, a team that had a really strong 2001 season relative to what they thought they might do. So this is a positive again to see their cars up and around the points early on here. I mean, it can't be long before Jarno Trulli is into the pit lane, but if we can make the move happen before then, that would be quite good. Seems like the cars as well are built a little bit stronger in 2002, so that might allow us, you know, to be a bit more risky in our wheel-to-wheel combat. Not quite Schumacher risky, but risky. So there we go. Mark Genet, David Coulthard, I believe, and maybe a couple of others. Anthony Davidson as well. Jacques Villeneuve all into the pit lane. So we're going to start gaining a few more spots then here. Undecided whether we're going to be able to try and get to the end of the race or not on this strategy. But yeah, we've really kind of got ourselves back up to where we should have been in this Grand Prix. I think we're going to see 3 very dominant teams again in 2002. But as long as those 3 teams are close in terms of performance, I don't mind. But there we go, Michael Schumacher then also into the pit lane at the end of lap 11. And Rubens Barrichello heavily linked to this Ferrari seat for the new year until we stepped in. He also dives into the pit lane there. So does Frentzen. So we're going to be out into the lead of the Grand Prix. Zolt Baumgartner is going to be able to P2 with Danica Patrick up into 3rd then. So quite the mixed up grid at this stage of the race. But I mean, look at that, Frentzen. He has not come out far behind me. I know it's probably not the best track to do an apples to oranges comparison inside this game, but genuinely, these cars are getting so ridiculously fast in the early 2000s. Of course, this mod, it doesn't quite work like a normal F1 career mode. The cars are kind of given a base level of performance that changes each season, and then of course the upgrades on top of that. So, you know, they are getting much quicker year on year than, say, a normal F1 2020 career mode car would. But I don't think we're that far away from what would be kind of times in a modern ground effect car. Obviously, this version of Albert Park very different to the modern layout, but the fact we're running almost in the 1:25s here in race trim, pretty damn astounding. Well, Frentzen then has finally found a way around Zolt Baumgartner here as well, so that gap at about 5.5 seconds right now. I'm tempted to box again sort of around lap 20 because the tyres will start to hit the cliff towards the end of the Grand Prix. But every car he can hold up just a little bit longer really does help us out later on in the afternoon. I would assume we'll probably see him into the pits pretty soon as well. But yeah, a combination of that and the front wing, which I am going to change. Just feel like we'd struggled too much trying to get the car to the flag. Oh, there we go, Baumgartner into the pit lane. We might see Alexander Wurz in as well at the end of the very next lap. No, we won't. So Wurz then, he's actually holding up our teammate Michael Schumacher right now. You know, and again, that is really helping us out later on in the GP. I would assume Mark Genet and David Coulthard are right behind him as well. And that's kind of worked out really nicely for Williams because it has allowed them just to pull away. Frentzen is going nearly a second a lap faster than me, so it wouldn't be long before he's back on, you know, right on my gearbox. As we've got yellow flags out. That is a Jaguar, I believe, at the Grand Prix. So looks like a mechanical failure. Oh, there we go. Alexander Wurz is in, so we are going to have to probably dive in the end of this lap because I don't want to lose too much time for the likes of Schumacher and DC as well. I mean, Coulthard is a man I would love to beat this afternoon. Come the checkered flag, you know, Ron Dennis telling me that he still believed DC was their future, despite the fact I won the World Championship. That doesn't sit right with me. Just taking every last little bit out of the tyre then. So we make our way through those final couple of corners. Again, we've got to be aggressive on pit lane entry, but oh, these cars are not that great at slowing down at low speed, or this car certainly isn't. So maybe, you know, as we get to tracks like Monaco and stuff, we might struggle a little bit more, but new front wing going on then. Come on, we haven't got all day, team. 8.8 seconds isn't actually a bad pit stop time, to be completely honest with you. But as we try and put the power down then to make our way towards pit lane exit, there goes Marc Genet. Here is Zolt Baumgartner. Are we going to get out ahead of him? Yes, we do still. So that works out nicely. Now we can just afford to absolutely push towards the flag. Well, this is what we need to be doing in these last few laps, is just trying to prove to everybody the pace we've got behind the wheel of our new car. Show, you know, the likes of Williams that we are confident in our new scenery there. New fastest lap of the day. We only go fractionally quicker, though, than what Jacques Villeneuve has been able to do. I reckon there's a low 24 in it. Well, Villeneuve and I are just trading fastest lap after fastest lap at this stage. He's just done a 24.8. Oh, there we go. I said a low 24 was in it. And that's exactly what we've done. And we need more of those towards the end. We can definitely get Genet, but I want to try and get Anthony Davidson as well. Well, if we want to get to Anthony Davidson by the end of this, we've got to try and get around Marc Genet pretty quick here. Running about 1.5 seconds a lap faster than these guys. Just courtesy of the fresher, quicker tyres towards the end of the GP. I thought Genet was going to be a little bit quicker here, to be honest, but he seems to... I wonder if he just got caught out behind a couple more slower cars than everybody else and just kind of got disconnected from that group. So, you know, first race for McLaren, he's just trying to make sure that he brings the car home. And, and a good result as well. Try and put the power down out onto the back straight there. Can we get close enough to go for anything? Not quite yet. See, we've definitely got the straight line speed over that McLaren, but that thing, if it's anything like the 2001 car, will fly through some of the twistier bits of the lap, and especially, you know, through those high downforce sections. I'd say Ferrari's got the best car in a straight line, McLaren have got the best car through the corners, and Williams have definitely got the best all-rounder, I think, in spite of both those attributes there. But, I mean, look at how much we're trying to push there, lean on the traction control through that final corner, really try and fling the car out onto the front straight. This is what Albert Park used to be known for, a notoriously difficult circuit to actually make moves against other cars there, and you've got to try and line yourself up through turn 1, out of turn 2 though. Can we try and catch him by surprise in towards turn 3 to the inside? Oh, Genet turns in. Marc Genet there, I think, a little bit kind of surprised by the move we made. There was a little bit of wheel banging. But we are through, and somehow we're both still running. Well, as the fuel burns off, this car is absolutely coming alive towards the end of the race. But is it going to be enough to try and close in on Anthony Davidson? Another new fastest lap of a 1:23.8. That gap now down towards 3 seconds. We're running over 1 second a lap faster. I think at the rate this is going, we might just catch him on the very last lap. But catching is one thing. Overtaking is a whole other issue. Well, last season we never finished lower than 4th place in any Grand Prix. Admittedly, that doesn't factor in the DNF we had at Singapore. I think unless something crazy happens on this last lap here, that streak is sadly going to be broken. But I think, yeah, to come back from the very back of the field and to get front wing damage, to still recover to what could be a P5 finish, either way, it looks like we are going to score points in this GP. I think we can be pretty happy with there as well. We've lost someone else right towards the end of this one. Not too sure who that is. Let's take a look after the Grand Prix. But Anthony Davidson, it has been a fairy tale debut for the BAR man. But will he be able to hang on right the way around towards the checkered flag here? We are closing in on the car for a team that we used to drive for. And like I said, I'm pretty happy to see BAR back in better fighting form as we head into the new campaign there. But how good is that car in a straight line? It looks pretty competitive, actually. So we're going to have to try and get adventurous. With where we want to make this move there is a little bit wide. So we make our way down in towards the final few corners here. The yellow flags are out. So, yeah, there we go. There's a stricken car off on the side of the road. Not too sure, though, who it is. But as we make our way through the final few turns, Hans-Al Frentzen, he was critical in helping Williams wrap up the Constructors last year. This season, he goes for the big one, winning here in Albert Park, Australia, to kickstart his campaign. We come through for P6.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
Another superb Australian Grand Prix comes to an end, and it's a thoroughly deserved victory. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
It was a question of right place, right time today. We were looking at an entirely different race before the safety car came out, but they were able to take full advantage after the field had been bunched up.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
Well, there we are then, the end of the Australian Grand Prix, and every season inside this game seems to chuck up something different, and this time is no different there. You can see Frentzen takes the win by just 0.4 of a second over his teammate Jacques Villeneuve there. Schumacher 14 seconds away, but will kickstart the year with a podium. I think, honestly, that probably looks worse than it should have been, mainly because, obviously, you know, a lot of our front runners got slowed up behind some slower traffic. So yeah, Schumacher probably could have been a bit closer, but I still think Williams had the car to beat as we head into the new season. DC comes through for 4th. Anthony Davidson, what a debut in P5 there ahead of myself. With Janae, Jarno Trey, Danica Patrick becomes the first female to score points in Formula 1 in almost 30 years at this point. I believe the last time was back in 1976, with Alexander Wirtz there rounding out the top 10 in his Renault car. Montoya just misses out on points in his Toyota, ahead of Schumacher, Fisichella and Sato, with both Minardis getting to the checkered flag there. It was Baumgartner that broke down towards the end. Rubens Barrichello also out of the Grand Prix, alongside Jenson Button and Mark Webber there. So Jaguar, both cars failing to see the checkered flag. What does that do, though? Of course, Drivers' Championship, exactly the same as our race results. Constructors-wise, though, Ferrari are up in P2 there, but Williams have a pretty big lead at the top of the table. Already 6 teams even, with points on the board as well. So, yeah, good start to the year for BAR. Are really, really important for them as well. But thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back probably on Sunday with round 2 of the year from Zandvoort. And of course, obviously, if you're a channel member, you can click join £1 a month. You can watch that race early as well. But yeah, that's going to do us for this one, and we'll be back very soon with round 2 of Formula 1 2002.